newborn screening.
Screening. So I will have the tech team take it away. Oh, and I'm just looking at our next break time. I think we're good for right now. So tech team, take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Judy. I am the parent of a sickle cell warrior. His name is Kamal, and he's 18 years old. And today it's my pleasure to talk about my experience with newborn screening. So at the time that I was pregnant with my son, newborn screening was just being introduced here in Ontario. For those of you who don't know Ontario, I'm in Canada. And it was going to be rolled out a few months after I was due to give birth. When I was pregnant, I knew that I was a sickle cell trait carrier. And so my care team offered me the opportunity to have an amniocentesis done to determine whether or not my son had sickle cell disease. Now, if I could back up for a moment, again, I knew I had the trait. My partner had been tested and was told he did not have sickle cell disease. So fast forward, I'm about 6 months pregnant and they want to do amnio. I refused. And because I didn't want to live in worry during my pregnancy, so I decided that I would not do the amnio and I would deal with whatever comes when it comes. So the day before I was discharged from the hospital, my son went through newborn screening. The test was added to the battery of tests done here in Ontario. And about 4 months later, I did receive a call from the Hospital for Sick Kids here in Toronto, advising me that my son had tested positive for sickle cell disease. So I'm thankful that I was able to be a part of that, because had I not had this done through newborn screening, I wouldn't have probably known that my son had sickle cell disease until he had a crisis. Again, backing up to the fact that we thought we were, as a couple, one person with trait and one person without trait. But what we learned later on was that the testing that was done was not sufficient. Electrophoresis needed to be done to really determine whether or not we were going to be bringing forth a child with sickle cell disease. So that was a lesson learned, and I'm thankful to be one of the first here in Canada to have, our case discovered through newborn screening. Thanks, everybody.
Interesting, right? To know how her partner got tested and he was told he did not have sickle cell trait at all. And we do have another mom in Canada who also leads an organization in Alberta, Dr. Jean Waldron, that everybody I think knows Jean. And Jean had the same situation. She was told that she did not have sickle cell trait, and then she had a daughter with sickle cell disease. So I believe that there must have been some issues with even the way they were testing. I don't understand how they can, misdiagnose people like this. But some parents have told us the same story, similar stories, and that's quite, concerning, because they're doing the right thing, getting tested to know so that they can, make informed decision. But when we're being told, oh, your partner doesn't have it, then you said, okay, no problem. So then you have a child with sickle cell. So Judy was one of the first. Judy is the president of Camp Jumoke, one of the only sickle cell organization that provide summer camp for kids with sickle cell disease. Yeah. So they get to go, they have a nurse and they have a physician with them, and they can experience swimming and all those physical activities that sometimes they are scared to go through. So thank you, Judy. Miss Judy, thank you for sharing your story today. Thank you for being part of this marathon. Do we have another video?
We do.
Oh,
yes.
Good.
Thank you.
As far as newborn screening, most parents, they remember it. It's like a faint little memory, and a lot of times nothing comes from it. But when you do get that result that you have to follow up, it really kicks in. And it could be the beginning of nothing, it could be the beginning of everything life changing. Hi, my name's Chad, and I'm a father of two, Christian and Cameron. Newborn screening for me began when my son was born. So my son was born and he had sickle cell anemia. His mom had the trait, I had the trait. So we knew it's a 1 in 4 chance of him having sickle cell. And they let us know that when he was born. And once they gave him to us, and they said, well, he has sickle cell anemia. You have to go and get additional tests, a bunch of hemoglobin tests. So, like, this was the introduction to my results, and now I have to move forward and figure out what to do with these results. So that was my connection to newborn screening. If I would have to describe newborn screening in one word, it would be a blessing. One of the things I like to say is you have to find that treasure in every trial you go through in life. It's a true blessing to learn and figure out, like, oh, my kid's crying for this, because they can't communicate to you. So it's an untold blessing that a lot of people are very thankful for. And you realize, like, oh, this is important. There are a lot of things that aren't even on the list to get screened for. This is a major tool for parents to have.
And so, Biba, I am glad that we're doing this because at least here in the US, with all of the cuts happening, CDC has been disrupted, and CDC is the one that newborn screening is under. So this is real.
Mm.
So we've heard the two stories, Judy and the one that you just mentioned. Oh, Jean, no Jean, where you can have false positives, um, and or false negatives,
Of negative, yeah.
and then where someone did find out, but here anyway, this is at stake, and so
Wow.
it's something that needs to be um you know, and too bad we couldn't have someone from the CDC to be
Yeah.
able to speak on that. But we do have another story. I've met Arletta. She's in California, so since she's here, hello,
Hi, good morning.
good
Hi.
morning, and thank you for joining us. And so I just think it's important, in planning World Sickle Cell Day, we have to talk about newborn screening. Um, as you may or may not have heard earlier, even though as of 2006 in the US, it is national, but it is not something that takes place globally. And so it can be life-saving, but it doesn't occur globally. So we wanted to hear different, folks' story. And so we're going to turn the discussion over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Raleigh, for having me and for allowing me to share. Most definitely, my son, I am a mother to a son of a 4-year-old sickle cell warrior. And our journey through this process has been, it's been a lot. One thing that I do remember very distinctly about the newborn screen, that when it came in, I think it was like a week after he was born and I got the call. The doctor who called me and gave me the results really didn't know what it meant. And so while it, it it kind of gave me and my husband a shock, we were really left with more questions than answers. It took us about 2 months to get into the hemo clinic in Atlanta. We were at Chalk, Aflac Clinic, and um, they expedited him into the clinic because they felt like, well, we don't really understand this. We want to make sure that we're not missing anything. And it was important that we did that, because shortly after we established care for him, he did have a life-threatening episode, and that was his first one, and he was about 4 months old. And I think what I really I can say this, that the newborn screen is important from the standpoint of just really giving you some awareness that maybe my child, because he was our last child, he was our baby, and the other two children didn't have sickle cell disease. And so when he presented in that way, we couldn't take for granted that he could just have a regular cold or fight off viruses or even have the ability to have the energy or engage life in the same way. And it was about 1 or 2 visits that we had before he had that incident. It was the words that came from the doctor that just basically alerted us for the things that we should look out for, that allowed us to be able to survive that life-threatening episode with our son. And then basically from that standpoint, I think one thing that I did notice is that while the newborn screen it was important for giving us the insight about where we started the journey, it could not really help us with the journey, meaning from that standpoint, we've tested him several times for his diagnosis. We've had to retest so many different things. I mean, the child has gone through extensive testing. We've switched 3 different hospital systems. I would say that the there was less answers that we could get as we got deeper into it, and our son became like this almost like anomaly to people. It was like, well, we don't really understand, we don't know, we can't really give you answers, yet he kept having life-threatening episodes. And so I would just say that um uh while the newborn screening was an important first step, it didn't end there. We had to continue to really learn our son, learn what his triggers were, learn why he presented maybe even somewhat differently within the type of sickle cell type that he had, and not become discouraged, because I think it was very easy to become discouraged when one doctor would say this and another doctor would say that, but really to continue on to the ultimate goal of our son being stable, and finding the best care for him so that he could live the life that he was meant to live.
Mm.
Mm. Wow. So when I'm hearing you say, if I can repeat back what I think I heard you say, he had multiple hemoglobin electrophoresis.
He's had probably about 6 of them in his
Oh.
4 years of life.
Hmm. And can you share with us, so what type of sickle cell does he have that they finally were able to, quote, agree on?
So while the testing has always come back to be the same, which is sickle cell beta thalassemia, one thing that has been probably the most uh, intriguing to see the doctors when they're having these conversations is because while he keeps coming back with that diagnosis, the levels of the F, the A, and all all those levels are not necessarily in the more typical range of a child who has that type. And so because of that, it kind of puts them in a place where they are second guessing, well, really, is this the diagnosis that he should have? Right now, we just encountered a very, well, we're transferred his care to UCSF. And so when we went there, we also redid the electrophoresis. We did several other tests as well, genetic tests, and she wanted to reclarify some things. But again, it came back from the lab that it was sickle cell beta thalassemia, but because of his level,
Oh.
they keep saying, well, this is we don't, the doctor there has said that we have not seen a child like this in our clinic. And that's all I can say, is that she says we don't have a child that looks like this with this diagnosis in our clinic. So I think that what throws them off is part of what makes sickle cell so I guess difficult in some ways for doctors, because there is so much variety in the diagnosis as well as the way that it presents within an individual patient. And if your child is presenting in a very or a unique way, or a way that hasn't been seen yet by a doctor, there are challenges for you as the caregiver or the parent. You will go through challenges because you will have to fight for your child in ways that you may not have anticipated, or you may have to really go into several different systems to really find someone who can see your child and see who they are outside of the test, but also validated by some of the numbers and the values that come back from those testings?
I think how you've been, well, as a parent, of course, but you've been very tenacious because you were in Atlanta, in California. California is a long state, and so it's not easy to go just from one hospital to another. So that requires a flight or a long drive. And so um, we want to make sure that you're heard more often because you're not the only one.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're not the only one who presents, whose child presents a certain way that that others haven't seen. And we tell everyone all the time, there are there are hundreds of different hemoglobinopathies, um, and we're still discovering. We know what the common ones are and quote how they tend to present, but now your child becomes uh, something for textbooks because this is now something that has occurred and now they have to keep that in mind. So we appreciate you. Do you want to share with them our audience as well what you all are going through now? I mean, that's
Yes. So at this point in time, we are in the pursuit of BMT, bone marrow transplant. We have initiated that with UCSF, and we've started, some just brief preliminary conversations, and we're waiting for our authorization for our insurance to come through so we can start our official consult. But we this is our second time pursuing this. So we were already able to have some information for the UCSF team that was very helpful. My daughter, who is right above my son, about 17 months above him, is a exact match. And the HLA typing is exactly the
Wow.
same. And that was one of the things that the doctors were so, at UCSF, the doctors were so amazed. They were like, you have what they called a golden ticket
yeah,
for your child. And they just were just really enthused and really motivated us to continue to look at this step again. I think me and my husband, this is something that for us has been, we're intimidated to say the least about the process because it seems so daunting. But I think by the encouragement of a team of doctors that are very confident, they're very confident there when it comes to BMT. They've been doing it, they said, for like over 25 years. And
19.
the fact that our child is an exact match and we have a child that's an exact match to the other one, and that they have a lot of resources and support around us. I think we're becoming more comfortable taking these steps, but that's the journey that we're on right now. And the date that we talked about, okay, how soon are we looking to do this? And the first go at it that we're trying to see if that works out would be basically a year from now. So next summer.
Well, if you were here for Dr. Sharma's talk, he already said that's like, what did he say? 1 in 10. And so that's just amazing. That's no, that's just a blessing.
Yes.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing.
That's, yeah, it is. Wow, thank you for sharing your story. Um, we had recently something similar in Canada, but it was just that the mother moved from Africa, from Cameroon to Canada, and she had sickle cell disease. But she said, I have sickle cell disease type SS, right? So she was treated right away. And then she came with her little boy. And then she tells me that, but my son is AA. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's not possible. If you have sickle cell disease SS, your child is going to be AS, but there is no way that you can have a child who doesn't have sickle cell trait. She goes, well, they tested him twice in Africa and she showed us the result. Now, right away, people around her start looking around and telling me, well, maybe that's not her child, right? Maybe you need to look into this. So and I knew it was her little boy. I knew she showed me pictures, right? She was pregnant of him. And I had to talk to one physician in the Middle East, Professor Al-Kindi, because he's our advisor. So I went to him, I said, this woman just immigrated to Canada, and I don't want her to get in trouble if they start looking into her files that maybe the child was, adopted or whatever. You don't know. And she said that she gave birth to him, and nobody believes her because he's AA. And he said to me, get back and tell them to test her back. She's not SS. She has sickle cell beta thalassemia. That's why they are not finding the child. They're finding the child AA because where she's coming from, I'm sure they are not able to identify sickle cell beta thalassemia. And that was true. And they did, and the son was. He had the beta trait, not the S trait. So they couldn't find it in Africa. So you see, that's why it's important, to have this test being done in the right place. But I want to bring something else. When you talk about newborn screening, okay, in Canada, when we funded ACJC, only one province was testing for sickle cell. So now we only have one left that is not testing. All the provinces are testing for sickle cell disease. So we have newborn screening programs. However, there is one issue that we're having with them. They do not want to disclose the sickle cell trait status. And we have to advocate for that. So we tell them that it's important for you. How do you want our community to be educated enough to make informed decision? Whatever they decide to do is fine, but it belongs to them. So if you don't tell them about the trait, so the hospital will only call you if your child has the disease. But if they realize that it's sickle cell trait, they will not call you. So you don't know. So the child can grow up and go through some health issues because high altitude exposure is an issue for sickle cell trait, right? Anesthesia. My son is AS. He was having surgery. That's when I discovered that when you have sickle cell trait and you are going to have a surgery, into general anesthesia, you better let them know. There are some specific things they shouldn't do in your case. So we've been advocating for them to say, yes, we want to know about the disease status, but also you have to disclose the sickle cell trait because that's why we work with trying to raise awareness in the community to reduce the incidence of the disease, right? So I think it's important as you advocate wherever you are in the world, advocate for newborn screening, make sure that they disclose the sickle cell trait to the community. It's really important. That's how we're going to change things for ourselves. Thank you so much, Arena, for sharing your story. And I wish you the best of luck with this. You're so lucky. I think it's such a debilitating disease that if you can help your son live a life free of sickle cell, it's a good thing.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining, and we'll be in touch. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.